Hello everybody and welcome back to another report card video. Today we are going to be talking about the Empire's core units and ranking them. So once again, here's how I grade the units in both of these slides. Feel free to pause and look over how I do this. So we're going to start off with the Shore Troopers. Shore Troopers have Coordinate Emplacement Trooper, where they can give an order after they've received one to an Emplacement Trooper at range 1. You get target 1 as well. When you get an order, you get a name. There you got 1 HP apiece, 1 courage, 1 black dice at range 3 apiece, and 1 black in melee. These guys are super simple, but also super effective. They are bread and butter, nothing special, and they have a great heavy. The cons here are they are courage 1, they do cost a little bit more than their counterparts. They want orders to really coordinate and set up to the mortars, which we're going to talk about in a second. And they really just kind of need aims because they don't surge. So black dice are good, but not surging can hurt you at times, but they do have some things going for them. In terms of upgrades, we'll talk about the heavies and specialists separately for every unit, but you can consider doing things like tactical push on this unit, maybe even precision scopes. I wouldn't worry about grenades though. So you've got the T-21B Trooper as their only heavy option. It is 32 points, coming in at range 4 with 2 black, 2 white, and critical 1. This really helps the dice pool of the Shore Troopers, and this heavy is one of the best heavies in the game because it's got some great range 4 potential with just 4 dice, and getting things like target 1, you can get your critical 1, you can reroll 2, get another crit, and you can just kind of really feed off that idea that these guys can hang out at range 4 and be a bit of a powerhouse. On the other side of the thing, you can also just add another body for 10 points. The heavy is a little bit expensive, but I definitely think it's worth it, especially when you're really probably only taking 3 of these guys. So you can take the Mortar. The Mortar is a detachment of the Shore Troopers, meaning that you can only take 1 mortar per Shore Trooper. And you have to deploy 1 mortar at a speed 1 distance from the unit of a Shore Trooper when you actually play the game. So they have to start off together. After that, they can do whatever, they can go wherever, they can do whatever, but as a detachment, they do have to hang out with their buddies. It has fire support, that's huge. If it has a face-up order token, you can add the 3 dice, the 1 black, whichever dice pool you want, and add that to someone else's attack, and then you flip the face-down order token down. And then you have full pivot, which allows you to do 360. Reposition as well. After you move, you can do that. And then Sentinel, your standby is instead of range 2, it's range 3. These are single models, and they have 3 health with 2 courage. They are speed 1. They've got a black in melee, got a regular blaster pistol, and then it is a fixed front arc at range 3 to 4, critical 1, suppressive with 3 white dice. So pros, once again, just adds on to that range 4 poking that we talk about. Suppression's amazing, especially when you're giving it out at range 4. It's super helpful. Okay. More importantly, fire support, hanging back at range 3 to 4 and fire supporting something in like Bosk. That's when these guys really show their value. These things are amazing. They're also courage 2, so if you need them to like jump on an objective for any reason, they're going to be one of the better choices. This is the only courage 2 option core unit for the Empire. They are only 3 HP, so they're not exactly hard to kill. They are also speed 1, and that mortar can definitely be outpositioned because it has to be in the front arc, and it has to be in range 3 to 4. So if they get in range 2, this thing kind of can't do what it wants to do. But you have things like Sentinel to kind of prevent that from happening, and more importantly, if you're playing a list with mortars, you probably have something going in front of you, or something that is kind of protecting you, because, you know, it's artillery, they're mortars. But these guys are really good. I give them an A-. I think they're one of the best options, simply because there's so much good stuff in the Empire to fire support things into. Just adding critical 1 makes that so much better. And cumbersome got easier, so these guys can shoot and then move. So another bonus for them. They don't have any upgrades or anything, so we're moving on to Snowtroopers. Snowtroopers have steady, 1 health, 1 courage. They surge to hit at speed 1. They have black in melee and white at range 3. Pros, these guys are steady. It's a really good keyword. Can be situational. There's a lot of situations that we can talk about, and I think we're going to look at the heavies to talk about them mostly, but these guys make like a really good hostage carrier because they're already speed 1. And so when the hostage reduces your speed to 1, it doesn't affect these guys, and they can shoot while they're carrying the hostage. And now they're courage 2, because that's another thing that's wrong with them. They are courage 1. To me, the biggest thing with snowtroopers is the steady keyword is actually super strong. I think they could actually do a lot with that keyword. Unfortunately, they don't have great heavies. For upgrades, I would consider any type of grenade on these guys, actually, if you are running the flamer version. For gear slot, I'd probably do like recon intel if you're trying that same strat. But as you can see, there's more than just the flamer. The flamer is 20 points coming in with blast and spray, meaning that every model in the target attack adds a black dice to that dice pool. So if there's 5 models, you get 5 black dice on the flamethrower. So very thematic, very cool. Also, blast is really good. So thumbs up for me. Not too terribly expensive either. And then the Ion Snowtrooper, cool idea, but refreshable. The dice pool's pretty lackluster. Impact 1. Ion 1 is great. It's super cheap, but it's just very hard to justify recover, shoot. But if there was a unit to do it, it would be the Snowtroopers. Okay? And if you want to add another body, it's just 8 points. I know I give these guys a C-. And when I say they can be situational, I'm talking about things like Hostage Carrier, I'm talking about things like Blizzard Force, where they can bump up to speed 2 and get in there with flamers and everything else like that. I think that's probably their best purpose, is number 1, they're just filling up one of your core slots for whatever reason. They're a really good just naked unit to play the objective for things like Hostage. They're fine for other things like Breakthrough. They can be on the move and also shoot. But in terms of just raw firepower, if you're trying to get some shooting in, the Flame Trooper is probably the best option, and it really shows up in Blizzard Force because you have that option of kind of spurring them. But in a regular list, maybe you could do like a transport or something, but these guys really struggle to get into range and then also just survive in terms of the firepower they're shooting versus the firepower that's probably coming back at range 3. But there's a lot of things you can do with steady. There's a lot of cool things you can utilize in that. For the most part, though, I give these guys a pretty low ranking because besides the situational 1 Snowtrooper in your list, I don't think you're ever going to want to run like 6 of these. But if you want to, go for it because I actually think that would be a lot of fun. Next up is Stormtroopers. I give them a B. Precise 1. We've got Courage 1, 1 HP apiece, Surge to hit, 3 whites, blacks once again in melee. They're the poster boy of Star Wars Legion. They are a great support platform for upgrades. If you wanted to put upgrades on your core troopers, if you're looking to have shooting, yes, short troopers are great, but another way to do that is get 6 core units with heavies. Stormtroopers are your models. Okay, surging to hit is awesome on a core unit. Now they are throwing white dice, but that means that every variation in dice, every increase in that potential in terms of black dice, red dice, whatever it is you can get, is going to be even more valuable on Stormtroopers because they're already surging to hit. And then Precise just kind of adds to that. It's like, okay, if we got an aim from an officer, we're taking an aim, we're rolling a total of 6 dice, you're going to get some good dice rolls with these guys. My only con with Stormtroopers is Courage 1, but I actually think it's kind of a big one for them. It's going to hurt them on objectives, it's going to hurt them getting the Precise off, it's going to hurt them getting in position, it's going to hurt them in a lot of ways. Suppression really messes these guys up, especially when you're paying more of a premium to get them the heavy weapons they want. In terms of upgrades, you could do something like Precision Scopes if you really wanted to and just make it Precise too. Grenades, meh. DLT Stormtrooper though, they've got a lot of upgrades. Range 1 to 4, 2 red dice, impact 1. This gun's fine. It's increasing your dice pool. It's cheap. It's basic. It's simple. Just don't plan on getting in a range 4 shootout with it. T21B, critical 2 at range 1, 2, 3. This is actually a really nice weapon for the cost in terms of adding critical to a dice pool is always a good thing. However, range 1 to 3, keep that in mind. For 24 points, you can get the RT-97C Stormtrooper, which is simply a range 1 to 4 gun with 1 red and 3 white. This is going to help you get a bigger dice pool and really utilize things like Precise 1, aims, all that good stuff, just because you have so much dice in your hand and they're searching to hit that you're going to get some good hits. Plus, just throwing a red in there is going to be really good. All basic upgrades. And then we have a new upcoming champion with the HH-12 Stormtrooper. Historically terrible. But 3 black at range 2 to 4. It is cumbersome and impact 3 and recoverable. So, not exactly a great weapon, but it's so cheap now that you could almost justify bringing it, and we've seen some lists and some combos that are starting to use it. So, I don't think it's out of the question. I am very interested to see where it goes, because I love impact, and I don't mind a little bit of a different unit, right? So, I think we're going to see some very interesting lists with this upgrade, just because of how cheap it is now. Stormtroopers got some upgrades. For 8 points, you can get another guy. For just 1 point more, you might as well get a Stormtrooper Specialist, get another gear slot, and then you can use this card to get an aim or surge whenever you want. And I think this is probably one of the main reasons Stormtroopers are a little bit better. Even when they are suppressed, you can pop this, get an aim, and shoot back. So, for 1 point more, I don't know why you would ever take the normal Stormtrooper over this. For 1 point, you can get an aim or a surge and recover that. It's some way or some card or some ability that lets you do that. I don't know why you wouldn't take this card. And then you have Stormtrooper Captains, which allow you to get the training slot upgrade, and then when you activate, you cannot remove suppression tokens or be suppressed during this activation. He's also your leader, so fine upgrade, but once again, I think the Stormtrooper Specialist just easily blows these other 2 out of the water, and I do not mean that in a bad way. It's just personal opinion. The Stormtrooper Specialist is actually a super good upgrade, so I think it's almost a shame to not use it, if that makes sense. So, do what you want, but at the end of the day, the Stormtrooper Specialist is in a great spot when we're making price comparisons. Okay? And then we're going to look at the generic upgrades. Everyone can run these. Imperial Comms Tech adds the comm slot, and then you have to do that. This is okay with things like Shore Troopers, where you can do like HQ uplink and then pop some orders, and then it also goes to the mortars. Like, it's fine. I wouldn't recommend it. It's a little costly because you're not really paying 20 points to do that. You're paying, or sorry, you're not paying 10 points. You're paying 20 because HQ uplink's also 10 points. So, kind of a meh upgrade in my opinion. Imperial Officer, increase your courage by 1 and gain Inspire 1. This is actually pretty cool, but unfortunately, I think that the 17 points is still a little too much. I am interested to see people do this, but honestly, people are probably using the model as just Becky yourself and living with that information. But increasing something like the Shore Troopers, or probably more importantly, the Stormtroopers to Courage 2 would be pretty cool, but it's also competing with the Stormtrooper Specialist slot, so go figure. Medical Droid for 19 points is actually a relatively cheap heal bot for something that has capacity 2. We're going to see a lot of use on this. Once again, we're going to talk about situational on top of the Snow Troopers, because I know some people are going to say, well, I don't think they deserve that grade. Yes, I agree. But you're going to need to do things like give Snow Troopers a medical droid, and they're going to just run up behind Vader and heal him when he takes some wounds. That's a very realistic thing for them to do, because they're going to be moving and shooting anyways, and then we also have this droid that's going to have its own purpose. Same thing with the Astromech droid. Pair 1, capacity 2. Both of these are non-combatants, by the way. They can't hurt anything. You can repair 2 things in 2 separate turns. So, very good in terms of a very cheap way to repair things. Things like IG-11 and IG-88 and ATST, bikes, whatever else you want to think of, is going to benefit from this quite heavily. For 9 points, I would gladly take it. And then we have 2 Outliers. From Inferno Squad, you can actually put these 2 guys into any squad as the heavy weapon. Both of these are great options for Snow Troopers, actually. But, once again, Courage 1. Gideon is going to allow them to increase their Courage to 2 and coordinate to another Trooper. 2 red dice at range 1 to 3 for 29 points. This is actually a pretty solid upgrade. It's just, it's a little expensive, and you can probably just run without him. But it is a very cool thing to consider on things like Snow Troopers. Same thing with Dell. You get the Repair 2, Capacity 1, High Velocity, and Lethal with a Sniper at range 1 to 5 for 25 points. Yes, this is a very good upgrade. It's a little hard to keep them back at range 1 to 5 when you don't have anything like Sharpshooter. Those 2 black dice are going to do very little for you in today's cover economy. But having things like Repair 2 on, once again, IG-11, IG-88, Gav Tank, ATST, whatever it is you got, as a free action, yes, that's going to be very good for things like Snow Troopers to sit back, heal stuff up, and then start double moving forward. And you can easily use that on things like Shore Troopers, combined with Boba's 3-pip, getting another dice, whatever the situation is. And I think all of these upgrades are fine on all 3 of the core units, by the way. getting Surge to hit on Dell and Gideon, great. Increasing the courage 2 to Stormtroopers, awesome. Coordinating from a Stormtrooper to a Short Trooper to a Mortar, amazing combo. Okay, start feeling like a clone player after a while. So both of these are good upgrades. Also, mind you, they're 2 health apiece. They're a little bit more expensive, but do not feel ashamed if you have this on your shelf to throw them in a list when you are not running Inferno Squad, because I think they are both really solid. Last note, as we go back, I just want to tell you the cost differences, because there's been some recent updates to everything. But Short Troopers are still 52 points. The Mortar, however, is now 40 points, so note that. And the Stormtroopers are still 44, and the Snow Troopers are still 44. But, summary. This is the bread and butter core faction. You cannot find a faction with a easier to utilize, use, learn, whatever, core unit. And to remind you, the reason that these rankings for things like Snow Troopers are going to be a little bit lower is because I'm thinking, what is the core unit's purpose? Well, for the most part in the Empire, it's not to fill up 3 core slots and move along. It's probably to actually make a little bit of a gun line. Put some buddies on there. Nonetheless, we have to consider what is that going to look like with 6 Snow Troopers? Not that great, right? But nonetheless, whichever one of these you guys are interested in, they are all extremely simple and straightforward. Shores want orders, they're going to get aims. Stormtroopers want aims, and they're going to shoot, and they don't need orders. There you go. Vice versa, right? Snowtroopers don't really care about either of those things. They're just going to be moving and shooting, meaning that you don't have to worry about positioning per se. You can just double move, be in range 3. A lot of cool options, okay? They have good heavies. The heavies are straightforward, like, oh, this one's impact 1, this one's critical 2, this one's critical 1, this one's range 1 to 4, this one's range 1 to 3, whatever it is. Pretty simple. First thing, though, they are all courage 1, except for the Mortar. Cool, great, grand, wonderful. Secondly, they kind of need aims. I would say all 3 of these options need aims. Short Troopers need aims because they don't search to hit. Storms need aims because they're throwing white dice. Same thing with Snow Troopers. Okay, so very aim-dependent army. And then another reason that I would say this is a very user-friendly army in terms of the core units is because of red saves. You can make mistakes because every once in a while you're going to roll for 4 hits and you're going to block all 4. And you're going to be like, oh, I love red saves. And then other times you're going to blank 4, and you're going to feel really bad. But thankfully, the Empire core units are by no means expensive, and I don't think any of them are overcosted, even a little bit. I think that this is the perfect example of 3, I guess you could say 4 core units that are adequately balanced and meet the purposes of what the faction wants to do. It has an identity. It's very simple. Red saves, courage 1, we like games. Okay, so very bread and butter in terms of these units. Highly recommend things like Stormtroopers to start off learning Star Wars Legion. If you're someone newer to the game or you're someone that's struggling with overcomplicated token sharing and clones, you may consider something like this because I think that this is the bread and butter core faction. But nonetheless, all good choices. And I will see you guys in the next video. I may be releasing one a little bit sooner just because these don't take as long. We'll be doing Rebel Core next, and then droids and clones and all that good stuff. But you guys let me know what you like about the videos, what you don't. Feel free to leave any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns in the comments. I know a lot of stuff is going on in our communities right now in terms of tournaments and things we're seeing. So if you have any questions that, aren't necessarily related to, oh, how good are these units? Like, I want to know, what do you think about Asajj or anything else? Like, please comment and we'll have a conversation. You guys have a great one, and please like and subscribe.